Hi, and welcome back to another installment of If It's in the Mind, It Can Be Managed, the Mind Management Mentors podcast. I'm extremely excited about today's guest, but before we get into that, just to let everybody know that the whole premise of the Mind Management Mentors podcast is helping coaches to build their businesses and getting the right people in to answer those questions, as I've had answered for me. We always work in the workplace wellness space of giving people the tools they need to create the best workplace wellness environment. And obviously, we talk about mind management, which is mindset and mental health, and the stories that we can really get into the world to support people on that journey. And today, I'm very honored to have you on, Vicas. I'll not say too much more about your name, but I will say that if there's in a world of business coaches, not many of them ring me bell. To be fair,
Thanks, Cuddy.
I've been to some business coaching kind of things, and I'm like, I think I know more than that person, and I'm not business minded. I'm still learning about it. Even I'm like, that's Billy Basic. I'm sorry, but when you talk, I think everybody listens, and there's a power in that.
Oh,
There's an absolute power in when somebody talks and I shut up. The only time I'm ever quiet, people will ask me one question, could you all right? I'm like, no, it's because I'm listening. Because if I'm talking, I'm not listening. That's a simple fact in life. When I go quiet, people always ask me, am I all right? I'm like, no, I'm listening. I'm in super stealth mode right now. I know that these moments I need to take on like a sponge because there's something I'm going to learn. And that's what this podcast is all about, is how can we take our business from 1 million, 2 million, 3 million to a 50 million pound business, coaching, therapy, whatever your business is. And I know there's only one person that's going to be able to take us on that strategic flow, and that is you, sir, if you don't mind my saying.
so first and foremost, thank you so much for the very, very kind words and the kind introduction. It's really humbling to hear that. And as you rightfully say, two ears, one mouth. So if you can't listen when you talk. So, but thank you very much for that introduction. And you're right. I think when you're looking, whether your business does a million, 500,000, 50,000. When you want to, there's a big difference between growing your business and scaling your business. You get to a certain turnover level. Let's call it for this exercise. I'm going to just use a round number, 3 million, and you want to move it from 3 to 6 million in a period of time. There's a difference between growth and scale. Okay, so when you look at growing a business, normally when you look at growing a business, the cost rises in the same proportion as the revenue of the business. Okay, when you scale a business, the cost doesn't rise in the same amount as your revenue rises. So let's just say if you're growing your business from 3 million to 4 million and your cost is 2 million, it'll go from 2 million to 3 million. The proportions will stay the same. Whereas if you look at it from a scale perspective, the cost actually comes down because when you're growing your business, your focus is on expansion. When you're scaling your business, your focus is on leverage and efficiencies. And what that then means is your profit margin when you're growing your business normally stays constant or it's flat, whereas your profit margin normally improves. Okay. So when you're growing your business, you're normally spending money, you're hiring people, and you've got capacity issues. When you're scaling your business, you've come past that. You're more focused on automations, systems, delegation. You want to make sure that everything happens without you there. But I always get to the start that when you want to grow or scale your business, it always starts with the numbers. Always starts with the numbers. So whether you're doing 50,000, 100,000, 2 million, 3 million, the first thing you need to do is really basics because we want to help people is you need to understand what does your numbers tell you. So if you're doing, let's just say £100,000 probably at the moment, you need to understand what products or product categories or services are giving you that. So you could be selling 20 products but only three of them give you 80% of your revenue. Those are the ones that you should focus on. But you also should map the products and services to customer and customer segments. So when you talk about customer and customer segments and sectors and all of those things, you need to understand which sectors are growing, which sectors aren't growing. So hospitality at the moment, hospitality is not growing, especially in Scotland. It's shrinking because it's very difficult to open up a cafe. The overheads are high, it's labor intensive, all of those things. So one of the first things is you need to understand your numbers. You need to understand things like what is your average customer spend, what's your average customer lifetime value. What is your customer acquisition cost? So how much does it cost you to get a customer in the door? How much does it cost you to retain a customer? How many customers or how many frogs do you have to kiss to get that good customer? And when I talk about customer segment, what does a good customer look like? A good customer is for me always somebody that pays his bills on time, always a good customer. But you need to understand, is that customer going to buy your product? And it always starts with the numbers. You need certain key metrics where you say, okay, if I look at this product would appeal to this customer, and this is the easiest way to grow your business or scale. It's just 1% incrementations by looking where you are at the moment, 3 million, and you say, this is what my numbers are telling me. Okay, so if I want to grow, I see that product A is my most profitable product, and I sell product A to these clients. Okay, and then you say, okay, but I can also sell product B to these clients. But why are the clients that's buying product A not buying product B? So those are the types of things you want to start looking at in your business, because when you get to, let's just say you want to double your turnover, okay, very simply, you go, I'm doing 3 million over the course of a year. I'm going to do 6 million over the course of a year. So if I divide that by 12 months, I need to do 500,000 instead of 250. Where's that extra 250 going to come from? So there's three ways it could come from you. So they could either buy, the first one is called, but big word, market penetration, but clients are already buying one set of products from you. So what you want to do is you want to get them to buy not only one set, but another set of products, because you already have it. So you need to understand why your clients aren't buying everything from you. What's the reason that they're not doing it? Is it because they don't know about it? 9 out of 10 times that's the reason. But then there's also other things that you could look at. You could look at what's called product development. So these clients are buying product A, B. Is there maybe a product C that they would buy, and they would buy in volume that would cost you nothing to bring in, or your cost would be very similar to the other products, but clients need to buy everything from you. And then there's, of course, the holy grail. And if I crack this, I'd be a billionaire. Is
Ha!
how do I find new customers? Because that's what it's all about. And we live in an age of instant connection, awareness, social media. And we think if I post on social media enough, I'm going to get more customers. And guess what? You post on social media, and sometimes you get more customers, but most often you don't get more customers. And then you sit like this and you go, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? But it goes back to your numbers. It's understanding what is important to your customers. And that there's a lot of things that lie behind that, things like costing, margin, price point, what is affordable, what's happening in the greater economic environment. So if you think about a sector like engineering and manufacturing is under pressure at the moment, and they're under pressure because the labor costs are high, and they've got a certain price ceiling. So they can't increase their prices. So they can't put through a 10 or a 15% increase. They can put through a 5% increase, but their cost has jumped by 15%. So it means that their profitability has just shrunk by 10%. Just sort of really basics that you're looking at those type of things. So when you start looking at growing and scaling your business, you do need to have a very good handle on the numbers. And I'm going to say this, your business, your numbers, your responsibility. You need to understand, what does a good client look like? And you group them together. You call them A customers or double A customers or triple A customers. You never call them A, B, or C, because 9 out of 10 times when it gets out that I'm a C customer, I'm going to stop buying from you. So you need to categorize your clients into different levels, because not every client is going to give you the same thing. So the very first step when you want to look at growing scale your business is you need to understand your numbers, where you are at the moment, and you need to find what your key metrics are. I've given you a couple that are sort of the general ones. What your average customers spend per month, your average profitability, what your product mix, how many of your clients buy all your products. Those are things, and don't go for 100, go for between 5 and 7 key metrics. This is where you are now. And then you want to go from 3 million to 5 million over the next 3 years, or 6 million or 7 million. What do you need to do every year? And what is the costing implications in that? What does it look like? So you map it out in terms of numbers. So you've got 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million. What does that look like in terms of number of customers, number of products, average customer value, average product value? You need to understand those numbers so that when you look at the picture, you go, okay, this is where I want to go to in terms of my numbers. Okay, so that is really, really important. You now understand where you need to go to in terms of your numbers, because you need to start mapping it. Okay, and that's where I think a lot of companies get it wrong, because you need to do the mapping backwards. You need to say, if I want to do 6 million, how many customers do I need? What products are they going to buy? And you're talking about a 3-year time window. So a lot can change in three years. So what I would say is you break it down into 4 90-day sprints. And you say in the next 90 days, this is how much I want to sell of this product to this type of client. And that's how you build it. Every 90 days, you want to increase it all the time because it is about the numbers. The numbers it's just numbers on a piece of paper. But if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? Okay. The second thing you need to know is you need to understand what are your
That was
business.
just the first thing.
That's
Hold
just the
your
first thing.
horses. I'm waiting for you to take a breath. You can talk all you like. First of all, you never even introduce yourself.
But I'm not that important. I'm really not that
No, but we
important.
need to know who you are and where you're from.
So I'm so are you going to edit this back out?
No, this is
Oh,
a
that's
whole
fantastic.
live podcast. This is live. We don't edit anything, mate.
I love being live, but I'm really not that important. I think I am trained as an accountant. I have worked for a corporate, and then we had our own business, which we lost nearly twice. We grew it, we scaled it, and we exited. So when I talk to you about these things, I think I understand that I don't just talk from a book knowledge perspective. I talk to you from waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, owing a lot of money, crying, wondering how am I going to afford to pay this back? They're going to repossess my house. What are my children going to think? What's my wife going to think? What's my friends going to think? Am I a failure? I talk from a perspective
What
that
you
I
mean,
understand.
like the time I turned up in your office and did the exact same thing?
So it was just a little bit of deja vu for me. I think everybody thinks that business is easy, and that if you have your own business, you're a success. And it's not that easy. But
No.
when I talk to you about these principles, these are stuff that I live by. These are stuff that corporate have taught me. There's a difference. You can chat GPT everything that I tell you, and I'll tell you. But do you know how
Correct.
to apply it? Do
Yeah.
you know how to apply it? Do you know how to calculate the key metric? I see it often when I talk to guys because they'll throw out buzzwords, but they don't know what it means or how it impacts their business. And when you've lived that business journey like I have, I can tell you that it does start with the numbers. The numbers tell me a story about your business, and it's either going to tell me a romance, action adventure, or a horror story. So one of those three. Okay.
Right. So you went into a lot of detail, right? And I was like, I'm going to wait for him to pause. Now I'm going to ask some questions before you go on to part two and part three, Vicas. So let me introduce you. This is Vicas van Biljon. He's a business doctor, great business. I would class you as a friend. I listen to you on a weekly basis, and I know that I've pimped you out an awful lot for the reason why they want to join the room that we're in. Because I use you as I do. I use you as is it the
Thank you.
honey? The honey trap. There's three people in that room that I use as the honey trap for. This is possibly why you want to be in this room. Now, you are extremely smart and extremely detail orientated, and Vickers, I'm sure you know plenty of personalities, but you know full well that the light in my eyes probably zones out when you talk about that much detail because I'm what am I, Vickers? Tits and teeth. We know
There you
that, but
go.
I'm trying to learn.
Okay.
Right. So I want to draw a picture for
Mhm.
anyone watching this because I think we might have missed a little part is it's the value of the company somebody wants to grow. They said, "Oh, we're valued at 3 million, but we want to be valued at 50 million."
Okay.
Now, for our listeners or for any coaches out there, how do you know what the value of your company is? Is it, again, coming back to what you said, it's the numbers and the story that will create a value for somebody to buy?
So so what is the value of your business? That's arbitrary. It's what I'm willing to pay for it. Willing buyer, willing seller. Okay, so I can make beautiful pictures. I could have lots of numbers on a spreadsheet. The value of a company is based on what somebody is willing to pay for it. But there is a methodology behind it. Okay, so I'm going to use the most common ones. If you use assets, and assets are things like think of JCBs, diggers, tractors. If you use that to generate income, revenue, normally what guys would do is they would call it a net asset value valuation. So you've got assets and you've got liabilities, and that gives you a value, and that's what your business can be valued at. Okay. More commonly is what they call a profit multiplier. You'll hear it, it's an EBITDA multiplier. Okay. And that ranges between 3 and 10. Anywhere in between, ranges between 2 and 10, but it's based on your historical data. Okay. And then there's something called a discounted cash flow. And that is just, we look at the profit you're going to be generating in the future, and we apply a risk factor to it. So very simply, if I want to make 10 grand out of your business, Cuddy, in this year, and I look at your risk factors and I say there's a risk of 10, 15%, I'm just going to use 15%, then I'm only going to pay you £8,500 today, but in a year's time, you're going to give me £10,000. That's how a discounted cash flow sort of works.
Right. I
Okay.
get
So,
that.
so you get that. So why I like that methodology is because I am not buying your history. I'm buying your future profits. So if I'm buying your future profits, there's a couple of things that I need to make sure of. And the very first thing I need to make sure of is that this business is not reliant on you. Can't
I've,
be
I've
reliant
heard
on
you
you.
mention that. Yeah, it can't be, a business
Can't be.
cannot be reliant on that person in it because if that person leaves, then there's no business,
Exactly.
right? So then you're
Then
buying the
the
person, not the business.
There we go. So that's the very first thing and that affects the value because if the business is reliant on the person, that risk factor that I spoke about, that goes up exponentially. If it's not reliant on the person, it goes down. So if that person has got a management team or a decision-making team in play, and he only floats in and out and he does a couple of things, and you have to substantiate that. Okay. So there are some guys go when they do what they call a due diligence on your business, they check that the business isn't reliant on you. Because their second worry is if this business is reliant on you, what happens if 1/3 of the customers leave because they don't like me and they've only got a relationship with Cuddy? What
That's
happens then?
bang on. I get that
Okay.
100.
So
Yes.
so that's the second thing we look at is are we or suppliers? Maybe the suppliers like dealing with Cuddy. Who's this new guy? Oh no, I've heard bad things of him. All of a sudden you don't have your key suppliers anymore. But more importantly is your staff, because you will have people that's been in your business for years and years and years. They've got knowledge. And what if they leave? What if they set up on their own? So that's a risk factor. So when you start looking at valuing companies, you need to look at how reliant is it on the owner. And let's call it dependencies and reliances on key customers, suppliers, and staff members. You need to evaluate that. That's risks in your business. But what sits above that is cash flow. Okay, that's the big risk. Your business is doing one or two things. It's either generating cash or it's using cash. So if it's generating cash, easy way to explain this is there's more money in the bank account at the end of the month than in the beginning of the month. And every month there's more money. So then you're generating cash. Guys are like, whoo. Because if you're not generating cash, if I buy your business, I'm going to have to, let's say, write you two checks. I'm going to say, you're not generating cash. So I'm going to have to put my hand in my pocket and put cash into your business. So I look at those two things. So are you generating cash? You're not generating cash. Okay. The one that everybody misses is a growth strategy. How are you going to grow this business? And that's when I sort of loop it back to what I've been talking to you about the numbers. Can I see that jump from 3 million to 5 million? Can I see what your strategy to get it? Is it more clients? Is it getting new products? What is your growth strategy? And everybody's got their growth strategies written down in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody writes it down.
Yeah.
Nobody creates a forecast. Nobody does the numbers. And then when somebody comes to buy you and they go, listen, can we have a forecast? You go, never done one before. And they go, oh, the risk is now, how do I know this business is going to grow? And then all of a sudden, the value of your business halves because they've got no confidence that that this business will grow without you. So you could say, this business is not reliant on me. Absolutely. And you could create the illusion that it isn't. When they start looking at those numbers, they go, wow, this growth strategy, tell me about it. And if you can't answer it, you can't tell them. So um, I think you say the difference between mediocrity and excellence. Why settle for mediocre when you can
Why
do excellent?
choose mediocrity when
Yeah.
excellence is the choice? Yes.
So it's definitely a choice in business as well. So why do
Yeah.
mediocre? So a mediocre business will say we grew by 10%. Okay. An excellent business will say, well, this year what's happened is we've had some price increases and our growth's been 10%. And of that 10%, price increases contributed to 3% of that. We've also had some new products which contributed to 4%. And what we've seen is that our customer basket spend has increased by the balance. So that means that they're on top of their numbers. They understand their growth strategy. So when you say to them, how are you going to grow it forward? They go, well, there's always going to be a 4% price increase. So we work on that. And how we get that is we grow, the economy is going to grow, we're going to find new customers, but there's always going to be our prices are going to increase by 4%. We then expect our existing customers to spend 1 or 2% more with us, and we're going to find new customers to 2 or 3% value. Okay, and then it's the how you're going to do that the guy, but immediately they've got confidence because they can see you looked at your historical numbers and you know how to apply it going forward. So when you look at growth strategy, that is probably what it is. How are you going to grow this business? Or how are we going to grow this business when you're no longer here? Because you've now sold me these future profits. I need to make sure that what you've done in the past is repetitive. I suppose the hardest one, which ties back to growth strategy, is what does your revenue model look like? So Starbucks, 3.4 billion pound business. Rubbish revenue model, rubbish. Because what do? They rely on your need for caffeine. They put it in the supermarket and they give you a loyalty card. On the other side of the scale, Apple with their iPhone, they've got iCloud, and it's £1 a month. So there was an interesting statistic that said Apple's got 1 billion iCloud users across the world. Let's just say that's rubbish, man. Let's just say I don't believe that stuff. Let's just say it's 500 million people. And let you and I go, we don't even believe that stat. Let's halve it again. 250 million people paying £1 a month. It's 250 million every month, 3 billion into your bank account. Makes running your business so much easier than relying on them coming in.
Kind of like a passive income. For someone on the
yeah.
lower scale, it's what we would class as a passive income.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at multi-level marketing companies, they've got that down to a T. But that revenue model ties directly into your growth strategy is how can you change it? And a lot of people think, oh, no, we can't. It's always been like this. But it doesn't have to be. You need to start thinking differently. You need to look at your customers. What would your customers pay for? What would they value? How would they value it? What is good for them? What is not good for them?
Right. I want to ask you a question, and it was a flippant comment that I think you thought was flippant a while ago, but I was actually being serious. Right. You did that, your 10-minute talk, and I was like, right, so why would Costa not do a subscription model?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was actually being serious. I was genuinely asking you if
Okay.
coffee's that cheap and they want people to come back. Now, I've heard that Costa's on its way out. Just, I don't know what, when you
Could
hear
be.
certain things. I've heard Coca-Cola's trying to sell it off because I think Coca-Cola bought Costa and they're like, we want it gone. So, why would you not do a loyalty card like
So
Netflix,
yeah, let me
9.99 a month, and you can have as many coffees as you want?
let me ask you this.
That's why I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good.
So
Go.
let me and I'll give you the answer shortly, but let me ask you this. Do you drive a car?
Yes.
Do you replace the tires on your car?
Yes.
So if there is a formula out there which says that the rubber on your car would never wear out, would you bring that to market?
By the way, is that not what used to happen with Dunlop tires? Is that not why they started Michelin tires? Is that not why they started Michelin four-star restaurants so that they would actually, right? Am I right? Is that
No,
not
no,
the reason
no. So,
Michelin restaurants started?
so
Is
there
because
is if you believe in conspiracy theories, I don't know, but apparently there is a formula, call it what you want, to produce a rubber compound where the thread on your tire never works out. Okay,
that's
but
not a surprise, but you're not going to sell it, right?
why won't I sell it?
Because you're never going to need to buy another one.
Exactly. So Costa, why would they sell you a membership at £9.99 for as much coffee as you want when they know that you will spend £4.30, okay, every day for 5 days? So you'll spend £100 a day. Why? Price
What?
point.
Right, let me ask you a question though, then. So
Yeah.
why has the Odeon done a £19.99 see as many movies as you want? And it's the price to go and see a movie is bigger. Oh, I'm guessing it's because you're not going to go and see a movie every day if you've got a £20
No,
card.
you're not going to go see a movie. So what happens with that? You use it a lot, but movies are also not as frequent as they are. So
Yes.
when you start looking at movies, a lot of movies are being released on Netflix, Amazon Prime, that type of thing. So people will stay at home because they can make their own popcorn. They can pause, they can go to the bathroom, all kinds of things that you think about. I would also say social media, what they call short form content,
Yeah.
longer movies that are 2.5, 3 hours. And then I'm going to use this as an example. I watched Mission Impossible, The Dead Reckoning. I watched it over 3 days in 3 installments, like
Yeah.
an hour a day. I'm like, oh, just a little bit too much for me today, just to unwind. But I watch it over 3 installments, and that's how we are. And it's interesting because movies used to be 2 hours. It's now hour and there's a lot of movies and it's all because if you look at reels, if you can't catch somebody's attention within 30 seconds, they won't watch the rest of your reel. So that first 30 seconds is really, really key. So when guys start looking at their business models, they make educated guesses and but they test it. They're very quick to move it up and down. So when the audience does that, they've done, believe me, that they've analyzed their numbers back to front, and they would work out that on average, the average person comes to the movie house maybe once a month, maybe twice,
Yeah.
spending £7. So I'm going to make money on that subscription because they're not going to come see the same movie. So they might lose money in the first one.
Spending £7 on a movie, Vickers. Do you know how much it is to go to the cinema?
No,
20
how much?
quid to watch Superman. 20
No,
quid.
20. So the
I
the
went
view.
twice.
So View cinemas, they charge you, I think, between £5 and £7. So they're relying on volume. So it's a volume-driven strategy, but it only works for so long. It only works for so long because you're relying on people coming in. And when I'm talking to you about the value of your business, I want to be really, really sure that that revenue model that you have, that business model, is going to deliver those numbers that I'm paying for. So different businesses have got different takes on it. It's when Costa sends you a birthday treat. Okay, they go, here, buy a cake. What are you going to buy with your cake? You're going to buy a coffee. Yeah. And you might be going to take your wife and your kids with you. So you're going to buy 2 coffees, a juice, more cakes. So they make more money out of you. Okay. Interesting statistic, McDonald's. Yeah. Do you go to McDonald's, Cuddy?
I actually don't, but that for different reasons.
Okay,
Yeah, but go on. I get that. Yeah.
so McDonald's. Lots of people go to McDonald's and they order a meal. They don't just order 2 burgers or a burger. McDonald's breaks even. I don't think they lose money on their burgers, but they don't make a huge amount of money. They make their money on the fries and the soda.
Because so there's no right. So if you're paying £10 for a meal, the fries were only 5p, and the soda, because it's a liquid and it's a refreshment, was 5p. The burger might be 8 quid, but you've
There
made
you
your
go.
2 quid on the
Yeah.
Also if I just go down there and buy burgers, I'm literally running them out of business.
Yes, yes, but nobody does that. Okay, and whether you like them or hate them, McDonald's business model isn't fast food. It is real estate. It's about understanding which market you're in. They real estate because they own the building. That's where they make their money from. Okay, because they rent the building to the franchisees. But that's how you need to start looking at your business. You need to understand which market you're in, what value you're delivering for your clients, and your revenue model is fairly important. Because if you've got a revenue model where people are spending every month, if you get them in at 1995, 995, whatever that number is, and the key to a revenue model like that is low utilization. So uh, if you have a boiler care problem, a boiler care project, they know that you're only going to use that product maybe once every 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So they charge you £30. So it's good money coming in, but they've already costed in because they've got the numbers. They know the statistics behind it. And that's why I say to you, when you go back to that 3 million, understanding how much your customer spends, how often he spends it, what is your profit that you make on it becomes really, really important when you tie it back to valuing a business, to saying, this is how you value a business. Okay. You look at these risk factors. And then I suppose the one everybody wants is what makes you wow? What makes you stand out? Okay. And everybody goes, this is my unique selling point. And this
I
is,
don't agree with unique selling points. I
yeah,
genuinely, and I saw someone else talking about the unique selling point, and I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but the only way I could say that for me is I'm the unique. It's me. I'm the
yeah.
brand. It's Cuddy. It's the hair. It's the eyes. It's the conversations. That's the only thing that literally makes me unique is me.
So I don't believe in a unique selling point. It's
Get in
controversial.
there. I'm on the same vibes as Vicas. I love it.
So I don't think I think something is really only unique if it can't be easily replicated. So if it's difficult. So when you think about mobile phones, yeah. So when you think about mobile phones when they first came out with face recognition, that's unique, but only for a period of time. When you think about big pharmaceutical companies making drugs, it's unique for a period of time until the patent runs out. Then it's not unique anymore. It's distinctive, and the way you deliver it could be different from your competitors, but it's not unique by no stretch of the imagination. So how do I measure what makes you wow? Everybody goes, no, jump on, look at our Google reviews, look at our Facebook reviews, look at our Trustpilot reviews, vouch for whatever. Yeah, that's subjective. Okay, because I could dislike you, yeah, and then I go into your Facebook page and I leave you a 1 star review, your Google page and I leave you a 1 star review, no comments. You can't get rid of that. Okay, but it drops your average reviews down. And Google go, well, he hasn't broken any of our things. Could just be, and some people are just like that. They might just not like
People
you.
are arseholes. I'm
And you
being
know,
polite. That's not the word I
absolutely.
wanted to
So
use.
they go, oh, I'm going to show him, I'm going to leave him a 1 star review. And that drops your overall review rating through nothing that you've done. But that thing that makes you wow, that sort of sustainable competitive advantage, what is that? What gives you the edge over people? And until you know it and you can tell people about it, everybody's guessing. It's your job to understand what it is and the value you create for your clients, combine it and give them that statement. You know, that is, you need to understand what makes you wow. You need to, and niche businesses understand that a lot better because if you're a niche business, guys are prepared to pay for your service. They're prepared to pay more for your service because they understand what you're doing, they can't get for anybody else. So when I'm looking at that, I'm looking, okay, how niche is this business? You know, what does the customers look like? How many guys are supplying it? So if you think about a trades business, plumbers, there's lots of plumbers out there. What
Yeah.
makes you choose one over the other? What's that one thing? And then guys come in and go quality, price, service. So you're telling me that the other plumber doesn't have quality, price, and service? It's not that. You need to figure it out. And that's the interesting thing is it's no two businesses are the same, and you can't Google it. You can't ask Chat GPT for it because it's going to give you what everybody else is. You figure it out on your way. And you know how you figure it out? By talking to your customers, understanding what you're doing for them that nobody else can do for them. And then you're looking for common themes and patterns, and then you create a sentence um, around it. So Habitat for Humanity, I like their sort of vision or value. And they go, we're going to end homelessness. Makes everybody feel, when they donate, makes everybody feel donated to a good cause. Warm and fuzzy. I'm going to end homelessness. Never going to end homelessness. Don't kid yourself. But that's what people buy into. Okay. I would also say I would want to understand how happy and satisfied your customers are. And again, that ties back to Google reviews. Doesn't show me your customers are happy and satisfied. Doesn't.
So that's where word of mouth is like one of the most powerful, and we can tie into why networking is so powerful because we do a lot of networking. I know you do, and I know I do. That's how we know each other, to be fair. But that's the word of mouth without even a testimonial. Without even a testimonial. So I want to share. I will share something right now, Vicas, for anyone that's listening to this. So I was in. I generally don't because some of the things that I deal with is a little bit like maybe they don't want to talk about it. I always think they should, but maybe they don't want to talk about it. And I actually never asked for a testimonial. And it's funny, I got invited to a party with one of my ex-clients, and this was only last Friday, actually, and I was not dressed for it, by the way, because I was just about to go DJing at the weekend, which I know I do. I walked into this, I was like, I'm not dressed for this, am I? They went, just be you, Cuddy, which that's the unique selling point. So it was a
There we
frosted tips
go.
t-shirt, shorts and a t-shirt, and the hair. So, and I got genuinely paraded around as the Messiah in this party. The amount of connections I made, and I'd only worked with this person for 4 sessions, actually, it was quite a quick process. And I genuinely was like, right, you don't need a testimonial. So that word of mouth is is
So,
gold dust, isn't it?
so tell me why you think that's gold dust. Tell me why you
Because
think that's
that's a
gold dust.
genuine feeling that's been created that they want other people to know about, so that they would say, look, if you are wanting to be more successful or you're wanting to be more happier with the home life, you need to speak to Cuddy. Cuddy's the one that helps you resolve whatever's in the past to let you move forward. So that's
And why is that important?
because that's a good question.
Okay, so let me give you the theory behind it. Okay, so there was a guy called I think he's called Thomas Reichelt. He used to work for Bain, and Bain is a big consulting. They used to be a big consulting firm, and they were really really curious when somebody says, "I'm happy and satisfied." Okay, so I'm happy, I'm satisfied. You're such a great guy. Okay, and they wanted to see, is there a link between somebody saying he's happy and satisfied and then buying from you again? Okay, and after he's analyzed all the data and everything, you know what the conclusion was?
No.
even if I tell you that I'm happy and satisfied, I might never buy from you again. But during his data analysis, he found one true thing. He says that if I put my name around you, so if I go and you put your name, your character behind it, so I go, you know what, you need to talk to Cuddy because he's a good guy. Okay. And they go and they talk to Cuddy and they're going to come back to you and go, you know what the hell did you do? So I always use this as an example, restaurants. So I go to you and I go, Cuddy, you need to go to this restaurant. It has got the best food. I know you'll love it. You get to the restaurant, they root to you, the food is rubbish. What are you going to do? What is the first thing you're going to do? You're going to pick up the phone to me and go, listen, I don't want to be funny, but you gave me a bad recommendation. I want my 50 or 100 quid back. Or I'm never going to trust you. Or you're going to tell people, don't listen to his recommendation because he knows nothing. Okay. And that's why word of mouth is because you're putting your name and your reputation on the line. And people believe that name and reputation. So when I look at things and the sort of theory behind it is called Net Promoter Score. It's Net Promoter Score.
At the NPS, I know I got NPS rammed down my throat at Royal Caribbean, and I was just like, you absolute right. So, and I've talked to you about this before, and we can
Yeah.
share it in the podcast because this is how people are around. So it was Curry's. It was
Yeah.
actually Curry's. Whenever I went to Curry's, they were like, "Oh, we've got a survey for you. Just put in a 10 for us because it's really for something else. Just put in a 10 because the 1 to 8s don't matter." And I'd come from Royal Caribbean. I'm like, "You're an arsehole, mate. I know what NPS is. No, just because Net Promoter Score, which I get it, it works.
I will say one thing. So there's two aspects for me to Net Promoter Score. Okay. So there is, if you have, so firstly, you have to do it anonymously. Okay. If you're not going to do it anonymously, don't even bother. Okay. Because it doesn't do it. But the second thing is, let's just say you have a client base of 100 and you put out a Net Promoter Score and 10 of the clients come back and you get 90%. That's actually also rubbish because your
It
client
is
engagement
because you're only
is
looking for the
only
nines.
10%. Yeah, it's only 10%. So you need to, and I say to you, that's when you start looking at businesses and you actually do evaluation properly, okay, and you actually start talking to business owners as let's create a valuable business. These are the things that you need to substantiate to a potential seller. Okay, so I'm just going to use Net Promoter Score, okay, because that influences your growth strategy and your revenue model. And you go to them, listen, I've got 1,000 clients. I send out Net Promoter Score every quarter, and my Net Promoter Score is 80%. But you know what? 70% of my clients reply. They've got confidence that those clients aren't going to leave because this business is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So when you look at things like that, that is what drives value in a business. That's what takes you from 1 million to 2 to 3 to 6 to 12 to 20 to 50, whatever the number is. It's understanding that.
So. For anyone, and I've just realised I actually didn't have a problem with MPS. It was KPIs that used to do my nuts in. It was KPIs. I was like, honestly, and I'll use the exact language. Fuck off with your KPIs. They're fucking stupid. And God, there was a KPI that I had that was not even in my division at the cruise division. In the cruise division, I'm like, why am I held
Yeah.
responsibility for whether they put a towel on the fucking bed? Why am I getting marked down when I'm hosting bingo? I went so KPIs. That's the one. MPS. Actually, I don't have a problem with MPS. I understand MPS, and I actually think it's a great thing because you do want the nines and the tens. You
Yeah.
want the nines and the tens that someone's going to see because that's. And I know it's one of those old adages is that if you've had bad experience, you'll tell 100 people you've had a bad experience. But if you've had a good experience, how many people would you tell? Because it's a different thing. And I think you're right with the NPS. It is a valuable tool for people to understand. It's just when you get the staff coming up to you saying, "You're going
Yeah.
to get us," just put a 10.
Just give us
Just
a
put a
10.
10.
I will say to you, you know what, KPIs is an interesting one. I always think what gets measured gets done. But if you want
Yes.
to make KPIs, okay, you say to the salesperson, okay, um, so you say, salesperson, if the salesperson has got no control over the costing, okay, you can't make him responsible for the profit because he's got no input. What does he have control over? The sales that he brings in. So
Yes.
that's what you incentivize it. You make very, very sure that when you measure your people, it's stuff that they can actually control. If the salesperson can cost and he can influence the profit, by all means, okay, by all means. But if he can't, don't. It's just not going to work because then you
Yes.
create exactly what you go is, why am I responsible for some guy not
Yeah.
putting his towel in it? I've got no control over it. I've got no influence. And I think often guys, you Google KPIs and they give you all of these things. For a salesperson, go look, go Google it, go chat GPT it. They'll put profit in there. But if the guy's not costing, and this is where I talk to you about, you can chat GPT it, but where's the real life application? Where's the logic? Where's the reasonable man principle? Where does that
Yes.
come from? You know, so when you look at all those factors, that drives the value in your business, and it's something. A lot of people wake up one day and they go, "I'm going to give this business the best 3 years of my life," and then they wake up in year three and they've only grown by 20%. And then they want to sell their business and they get a fraction of the price and they go, well, where did I go wrong? It's because they're not focusing on the driver. So in that there's that Ansoff matrix, okay? So these are drivers. So it's the difference between urgent and important, okay? So value of a business is high on importance, low on urgency. But you know what business owners do? They don't give it the importance it deserves, and they don't give it the urgency it deserves. So they just leave it and they put everything in their head and then they wake up 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 years later and they go, I think I've got a valuable business. And then somebody comes around and go, well, let's look at the value of your business. Let's look at all these drivers. Oh, I'm not so sure I'm going to pay you that money. And you go, I'm deflated. You go, well, have I spent the last 10 years? And then you go, I'll just close the thing down. Just don't care anymore. That's the sort of thing that I think, when you're looking at scaling your business, taking it from one to the other, you need to understand what are the levers you need to pull to drive your business forward.
So but that's bang on. I know we're right on the money there. So what are the main, because that's your grow model, right? That's the levers that you want to make sure that are in place so that when you go to that person or somebody
Yeah.
comes in and says, right, is it seven levers?
Well, it's not really. It's the so you've got a lever for volume. So there's a lever for volume. Volume could be more products, more customers, could be anything. There's a lever for price. You need to increase your prices. You need to make sure your price points are right. There's a lever for efficiency. So are you automating your business? Are you using the right tech out there? What's your order cycle look? What's your stock management cycle look like? What are those sort of things in terms of levers? Costing, margin, those are the things. One of the levers is people. Do you have the right people in the right roles doing the right thing? Okay. Because very often when you grow your business, you've got a guy that's phenomenal in sales, and you go, you're going to be my next sales manager. And nobody spent the time on training him, showing him management theory, anything. And you know what happens in sales tank? And everybody goes, well, we had such high expectations of him. And I'm like, but he's a great salesman for a reason. Did anybody ever talk to him? Did anybody ever look and see if he wanted to be a sales manager? Did anybody ever invest time in him and around that? And that is a big lever when you grow and you scale your business, because it can't be reliant on you. What is that people lever? How many more people do you need to do? So
Yeah.
when you scale, less people, greater results. When you grow, more people, lesser results. And you need to get around that sort of mindset is, how do I make this business more efficient? And very, 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 very often we think that throwing people or throwing money at a problem solves it. Hardly ever does, because when you go on that scale, you're going to need funding. Okay. And it's like anything. How does the bank know? So a lot of businesses, and I'm getting to grips with this, a lot of businesses are scared of debt. They go, we've never had debt. We're never going to have debt. And then they need debt. And then the bank wants their kidney, the right to their firstborn child, plus their house, plus their car. And then the guys go, I can't do it. But think about it like this. How does the bank know they can trust you? The reason why the bank gives you a mortgage is to make sure that you can pay it off. So when you sell your house and you settle your mortgage, they'll give you another mortgage because they know they can trust you. So in business, how do they know they can trust you? Debt isn't a bad thing. It's how you use it. Okay. And you need to build your credit score. So you start with a little bit of debt. You start with 10 grand and you repay the bank quickly. And the bank goes, you know what? That's a good guy. He paid that 10 grand back. You'd be surprised. The bank comes to you and go, we've got 20 grand for you. And you go,
Because you're paying the debt.
because you're paying the debt. So, and that's when I talk to you about cash flow. That's where debt comes into, because you are going to do that. Because when you start scaling your business, it's a shift that happens. Okay. It's a leadership shift that happens. Because very often when you grow your business, you're still involved in the day to day. And when you scale it, you need to start delegating day to day things. And this is where you need to understand what's important, what's urgent, what's not important, what's not in it. Because you're going to have to build a team management, whatever you want to do. You're going to have metrics to review the performance to make sure, because you're not doing it anymore. So how do you know? If you're sitting in Tahiti, how are you going to know the business is doing well? And I always say to guys, don't choose 500, choose five things that if we talk about this, it's good. And I always say cash flow. And cash flow isn't how much cash is in the bank. It's how much runway do you have. So if we don't do anything and we've got 6 months worth of money, if the next month we've got 7 months, your business is doing well, or 8 months, or 9 months, then your business is doing well. So those are the leaders. It's a strategic shift in your mindset because you're now starting to lead the organization. You're not a doer anymore. You're not a micromanager. You're actually a leader. You take people on the journey with you, and that's challenging because who's ever trained for that? Who's ever done some courses? And I suppose when you in corporate, they invest a lot more money uh, in those type of things. And I'm going to say this. I found that international organizations invest a lot more money in the young people. They expose them to all different
Yeah, they
aspects of
do.
the business. Whereas in the UK, if you're good at sales, they'll only pigeonhole you in sales. They'll never expose you to operations, engineering, all those other aspects of the business. Or if they do, they give it to you limited. It's very, very limited. So you don't really get a full rounded view. And international organizations are better at doing that. So it develops a whole lot of skills, everything around you, so that you could be absolutely the best version of yourself when you go out there and you run your business. Because a lot of guys, I mean, you start your business by default. I mean, when I started, I never wanted to be a business owner. I never wanted to be. It necessitated that. So when you have your business, what changes are you prepared to make? And everybody tells me, oh no, we love change. Mm, I don't believe that so much. I think change scares people because it means you have to do something different outside your comfort zone that you don't necessarily know how to do.
So those feelings
Where do
creep
you,
up.
yeah, where do you go for help? And then you don't want to sound like you don't know what you're doing because you're a business owner. You've got this business. Yeah. You should know what you're doing. I don't think it's that clear. I think that a lot of those pressures are necessary. You need to ask for help. You need to say, this is where we're going to, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to help grow organizations. So, when you're looking at the value of your business, you need to focus on the levers and the drivers that's going to drive your business
Yeah,
forward. And I'll go back to my big tirade on the numbers. And that's where it does start. It does start with those numbers, understanding that and then mapping it out. But looking at all the other things that influence and drive value, because it's not just one thing. It's the culmination of working on all those little things and making 1% improvements in them.
yeah. It's the same old adage from start with the end in mind and work your way back, which is yes, yeah.
Yeah. So
Stephen Covey. It's a lot of Stephen Covey stuff, which is great. I love Stephen Covey. Bless him. And the 1% difference is Atomic Habits. So I love that.
yeah,
That's absolutely fantastic. Great book. Um, it literally is from what I'm hearing, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is like you have the bigger picture and you just put the building blocks in place, but you're kind of saying that all the levers are important, but the people who are, what do you find is, I th please tell me if I'm wrong. A lot of people, when they go into that entrepreneurial business, it's probably because they've gone there because they thought, well, I can do it better than my boss. So I
yeah,
might as well do it for myself. Then they get into that position and go, holy shit, I wish I was back as staff and employment because this is bullshit. Right? Let's be honest, that happens an awful lot, right?
absolutely.
It does. Such a common thing. And the ones that, what is the key point that the ones that prosper and go from, what's one key ingredient that they all seem to have that with the experience you've worked with, of this is what's made them successful?
That's the beauty. There is not one single thing. But I think the thing that sets them apart is their willingness to accept responsibility and their willingness to learn and their willingness to ask for help because you don't know everything. I mean, I learn every day. I learn a lot from my clients. I learn a lot from different things. I read a lot. When I run, I listen to a lot of things. Um, there's not one single thing you're doing, but I would say successful entrepreneurs aren't scared to fail. They're not scared to fail.
Yeah, yeah,
They would rather they would rather fail and say, I've tried, but I failed, than never to try at all.
yeah.
But one of the things that I would say to you is they ask for help because they want to understand what are the basic business principles that they have to have. And one of the key fundamentals that's missing is financial education. That's a key financial discipline that's
It
missing.
is.
Nobody's
I'm still
educated.
not that good at it, but a Vicas, to be fair, and I'm
But
48. Yeah,
yeah, so that is a key thing is understanding that Turnover is vanity. Profit is maybe sanity, but the reality is cash flow because it doesn't matter how profitable your business is. If you can't afford to pay your suppliers and your staff, you don't have a business. And it's about understanding how profit, because you could have a profitable business but have no cash flow. And it's understanding why does that happen? Are your customers paying you too long? Are you too quick to settle your supplier debt? Are you not gearing your business? It's about understanding that are you sitting with too much stock because you're scared you're going to run out? It's those are the things that I think guys need to start looking at. And that's why I always tie things back to the numbers. Because when I sit and I talk to guys, I want to understand if they understand their numbers. And very, very, very few people do understand their numbers. Very, very few businesses. But successful guys, you talk to a guy like Jeff Bezos or Tim Cook, they know their numbers.
Was there a time when you didn't know your numbers?
Uh,
Was that the time when you were sat crying, going, oh, "What? Everyone's failing. What everyone thinks of me? Why?"
I've been fairly fortunate because I'm trained as an accountant, numbers, I always recognize the importance of numbers. But what you don't recognize is when things go well. Okay. So it's about risk. One of the things when is not seeing the risks, not seeing the risks and thinking that risk will never happen to me. So understanding what risks affect your business that you can control, understanding what risks affect your business you can't control. So very a simple risk is at the moment we're gearing up for the budget and there's lots of noise. Okay, there's noise about minimum wage jumping. There's noise about VAT going to 30%. There's noise about landlords having to pay more national insurance. So everybody's running scared. Okay. And if you're a conspiracy theorist, you'll think that there's lots of things in this, but there's a reason behind it. So if it happens to landlords, what's going to happen? A lot of portfolio landlords are going to sell. A lot of letting agents are going to be losing clients, so they're not going to be viable anymore. So they're either going to close doors or going to sell. Okay. So you can do absolutely nothing about that. Where do you sit in terms of your appetite for risk and how do you manage that risk? That's what when I talk to you about risk.
So would you also offer I'm conscious of time for you as
Mm.
well, Vicas. Would you also say that the success in a person is understanding risk and how much you can sit with that risk
Yeah. So
would
how
make a
comfortable are you?
successful
How
business owner?
comfortable are you with that debt and that risk? Because everybody wants to sell their businesses for 5, 10, 15 million. Everybody wants to do that. Reality is so few guys get it right to sell it for that level. And then they become disillusioned and they go, it's not that. For me, if you had to ask what is business, business is about managing risk. That's what it's about. It's about understanding and managing risk in a nutshell. Understanding what risks help you, understanding what risks hinder you, and understanding how you mitigate that.
I've learned. I'll tell you what. I want to share some things that I've learned just before we wrap up. I understand there's a difference between scale and growth.
Hmm.
I understand now that the value of a company comes from the risk, and by the sounds of it, how quickly you can pay off debt.
Or how long you can stretch it or how good your terms are on debt.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest drivers for those kind of businesses moving forward would be understanding the volume of the clients that you've got, the volume of the sales that you've got, the price that you're offering, and the efficiency of your operation with or without you in that operation.
Yeah. Preferably without you in that
Yeah,
operation.
absolutely. How efficient is it? How are the sales staff going to be when you leave or when the people within the business leave? I think genuinely, by the way, there was so much at the beginning of this podcast. If you've come in at the end, there was so much at the beginning of the podcast. I was like, right, we have to stop. We have to break it down. Because I know that you can rattle it off like the back of your hand. And I was like, right, we have to break that down
No,
just a
no,
little
that's
bit.
perfect with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was some massive takeaways for anyone watching this for understanding the difference between those concepts. And I've learned a lot and I really appreciate it. And I know that Andy spouts a lot of the same stuff that you talk about. And I'm like, yeah, I know you're working with Vicas. And I know that I've had conversations with Johnny. And I know that you're all sipping from the same juice.
We're
So
drinking from the same pool.
that's why I don't need to pay. That's why I don't need to work with you, Vicas, because I get it all. No, trust me. I 100% understand the value of Vicas fan Biljon. Vicas, is there anything else you want to share on the podcast, on the My Management Mentors podcast?
I will say to you that I think it's important that guys talk about it because being in business is a very lonely place. Who do you talk to? You can't talk to your wife because your wife's your wife for a reason. She's not your agony aunt. She doesn't want to hear about the stuff. You can talk to your friends and with the greatest respect, your friends are your friends for a reason. They don't want to hear about your problems. They're willing to support you for a while and then they go, "Hmm." I would say there's a lot of help out there. Not all of it is good. There are a lot of guys that do what I do. Some are good, some are bad. It's like any industry. And I would say if
Do
you
you
ask
know
for
what?
help,
You're absolutely right.
you
It's
know,
the same in industry. Yeah.
I would say go talk to three or four different people because you need to be able to talk to the right guy that gets you, that listens to you. Very often when I talk to guys for the first time and they say to me, "Can I help you?" My honest answer is, "No, I don't know," because what they're looking for is they're looking for a quick fix solution. And I use this nice rehearsed term. You're asking me to play darts, blindfolded, in a dark room and saying, "Hit a bullseye." Virtually impossible because I don't know anything about your business. And if anybody can tell you anything about your business that you don't already know, is the wrong guy for you. Absolutely 110% the wrong guy for you. Because he's going to take you down a rabbit hole and you're going to be uncomfortable with the decisions that he's making. Okay. And I guarantee you that it's not going to sit well with you. And eventually it might work, it might not work. It's 50-50. And if it doesn't work, then you've got a very, very bad experience. And more often than not, it doesn't work because it's not his business. It's not the consultant's business. It's your business. So you want to make sure that you are comfortable and that you understand why things happen. And if you're not comfortable with it, you need to stop it. So I think if you're going to ask for help, find the right person to help you. Have three or four different coffees or conversations. Look at three or four different people in that same realm and that experience because you want to make sure the guy, very often guys go to corporate and they get to the end of their corporate career after 50 years, okay? And they get a golden handshake and they go, "Now I'm going to be a consultant because I did really, really well." And that's good. But the problem is, though, they don't understand the concept of bootstrapping. So if the banks don't want to give you money, you have issues with your staff. How do you do it? Have you lived that journey? Because when you come from corporate, it's easy. I'm just going to ask the holding company for a little bit of money. We're going to go to the bank and negotiate some more funds. When you're a small business, you don't have those luxuries. Do you then start selling your car? Do you bond your house? What are the options available to you? And I think that is sort of where it really does start resonating with guys when I start talking to them because I've lived it. I understand it. I go, "No, you wake up, you cry. What do you do? Who do you talk to?" And your friends have
Mm,
got your best interest at heart, but they're your friends for a reason. They're there to support you, not to not you need that independent guy that goes, "Okay, let's look at all the options on the table. What have you tried?
mm.
What have you not tried? What's worked? Why have you done it?" And it's more about understanding why. For me, I always want to understand your motivations. I'm genuinely curious to understand what is that motivation that drives you forward to get that done.
Yeah. And tell me about the Business Babble. Tell everyone that's watching this about the Business Babble. It's a podcast that you've got where you share more hints and
Yeah,
tips and
so
information.
Business Babel for us is a great tool to give back to people. We think that there is just not enough education and knowledge about business. So if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and jump onto the Business Babel, listen to it. Give us your honest feedback, your comments. Start at episode 1 and then work your way through to the other 67. Sometimes there's some really good nuggets. Sometimes there is just
Babble.
ranting, banter, but there is always a purpose to it. I think we want to try and educate people that it is okay to not have all the answers.
Yeah.
It is okay to do things, but it's also okay to start looking at the principles and what you want to change and how you can change them.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Vicas. It's
Thank
been
you
an
very much for
absolute
having me.
pleasure. By the way, I
Time
know you're
has
looking at the
flown.
clock. It was an hour. It was an hour. Thank you so much, Vicas, for being on. Look, I'm a big believer. If it's in the mind, it can be managed. And Vicas and I, we do talk about the same things in many different ways. I'm a heart-centered approach, and I think listening. And you're absolutely right. Your friends will listen and drink with you, but they actually can't resolve. That's why we work with a mind management coach, right? It's
Mm,
like, well, I've been talking to my wife. She doesn't want to hear that shit. She'll try and support, and I've talked to my wife about a few things but they're just not interested. And that's why you have the Vicases of the world is like I'm invested in actually the problem and the business. And I always try and get as invested as I can with the clients that I'm
yeah,
working with. But this is invaluable stuff for anybody wanting to take their business from where they are to where they need to be. And with the understanding the differences between growth and scale, value, volume, and pricing and efficiency for the drivers is a massive takeaway for anybody. Thank you very much, Vicas, for
thank you
being
very
on the
much, Cuddy.
podcast. As always, big love from Cuddy, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast.